98.1 and select HD2. WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Callahan Injury Lawyers. Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rear view mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here from 1 to 3 weekdays. Casey Gaines, Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. A lot of baseball to get to today, as you might imagine. Darren Headrick is the play-by-play voice of the Kentucky Wildcats baseball program. He's with us in 15 minutes from right now. What If Wednesday, NBA Finals, some college football in hour number 2. Keith Law's got his big board out. What does that look like for LSU? And Chris Demouy in his normal spot at 2:30 on Wednesday. So locked and loaded here for the next 2 hours. I did not get a chance to kind of dive into LSU's pitching coach situation yesterday. We talked about the fact that Wes Johnson was taking the head job at Georgia, and I kind of went on a little bit of a winding path about how I did think he was an asset to the baseball program, did think that he had done some really good things at LSU in a short 12 months, and hopefully there's a lot more really good things to come over the next 3 weeks. But there are some that are, good riddance. The pitching staff stunk half the year. They're not good. Who's gotten better? All that kind of stuff. And I kind of pushed back on that yesterday. But what we will have to talk about eventually is who the next pitching coach will be. And last year at this time, you were looking for the same thing. Jason Kelly had moved on to Washington. And basically the two names that we had heard talked about were Christian Ostrander at Southern Miss and then Wes Johnson with the Twins. And that came down very, very quickly when the news broke. And so those two names obviously off the board. Wes is leaving and Christian Ostrander is about to be the head coach at Southern Miss. I don't think he's going to come here to be the pitching coach at LSU when he's got the job of a team that's been to back-to-back super regionals. So you're going to have to look at the Rolodex once again. And I have no doubt that Jay is prepared to go hire a pitching coach. I don't have any question about that. He understands at this program, as visible as it is with the success that he intends on having, that pretty much annually you may have staff changes. I think Mark Wanaka is probably going to be here a while because Mark Wanaka has been with Jay for a very, very long time. But in terms of your hitting and recruiting coordinator and pitching coaches and all that kind of stuff, those wheels are going to turn. That's just the way that it is. And so he's prepared for this. And I don't know any names that he's looking at. I don't know. But you can come up with some names that make sense. But before we do that, I want to be pretty clear about what Jay's looking for here. In this hire to replace Wes Johnson, he is looking at the technical side of pitching. Mechanics, analytics, ability to teach. He's looking at pitching. The recruiting piece to this is, in my opinion, not very important. He's got his recruiting coordinator in Josh Jordan, who has been that at multiple places now. He's an assistant here. He was at Duke. He's been here for a year. He's your recruiting coordinator. And Jay Johnson is as involved in recruiting as any head coach in any sport in the country. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's more involved than all of them, but he is as involved in recruiting as any head coach in the country in any sport. He does traveling. He takes visits. He makes phone calls. This is not one of those deals where you got an assistant that runs around and they bring you the goods and then you coach it. No. Jay Johnson is way involved in recruiting. So between he and Josh Jordan, you've got the recruiting side of this thing pretty well covered. Now, you can't get somebody in here who won't talk to anybody. Obviously, there aren't a lot of coaches like that. You can't have a film recluse, but the pitching aspect of this is far more important than any other piece of the puzzle. There are times in football where you're going to hire a position coach, but you want a recruiting background there, and we'll get the coaching done on the field. Sometimes in basketball, you bring somebody into your staff, you need the recruiting piece to be really important. And that's the case in baseball sometimes too, not with this pitching coach hire because of the way the staff is currently constituted. So who are some names that could make sense? Well, the first name that everybody's going to throw out there, poof, is Nate Yeskie. That's obvious. Nate Yeskie was very successful out on the West Coast. He was with Jay at Arizona, and then they split ways. Jay Johnson was hired to be the head coach at LSU on June 24th of 2021, and 5 days later, Nate Yeskie took the pitching coach job for Jim Schlossnagle at Texas A&M, and he's been there for 2 years. I couldn't tell you what those discussions were like. I'm assuming based on the timeline, them leaving Arizona 5 days apart, that they had spoken about this. If there was genuine interest in Jay bringing Nate Yeskie from Arizona to LSU, I think he probably would have come. I can't tell you why he didn't exactly, but it would stand to reason. But Yeskie's been at A&M. I just don't feel like he's going to leave A&M to come back to LSU. Am I ruling it out totally? No. I just don't think that's super realistic. Another name that makes some sense, a guy with a lot of SEC experience, a guy that knows pitching, a guy that's developed pitching for decades, is Rob Childress. Rob Childress was the head coach at Texas A&M for 17 seasons. And he did a pretty good job there. They got to Omaha a couple times. They had some really, really good teams. Around 2014, 15, 16, they were really good. And the 17 team I didn't think was that great, and they ended up getting to Omaha. But you're talking about him having developed guys like Asa Lacy was the 4th pick in the draft. Christian Rowe was in that draft, went in the 2nd round. John Joksakis was their ace. Left-hander went in the 2nd round. Corbin Martin was a really hard thrower for Texas A&M. He went in the 2nd round. A.J. Minter was a 2nd-round pick. Grayson Long went in the 3rd round. Daniel Mingden was their ace back in the Aaron Nola days. He was a 4th-round pick, but he got up and was a really solid major league pitcher for Oakland. Michael Waka is certainly a name you're familiar with. Ross Stripling has been in the big leagues for a long time. He did a really good job at recruiting and developing pitchers at Texas A&M over his time as the head coach. He is currently up at Nebraska. He was their director of player personnel. He may become their pitching coach. He spent time at Nebraska back around the turn of the century and may feel comfortable there. But if he wants to get back into the fire, LSU would provide that. Nebraska doesn't. And I don't know what Rob Childress's deal with analytics is, how much pitch lab stuff that's going on, what was at Texas A&M and what they're doing at Nebraska. Obviously, Wes Johnson, being in Major League Baseball, was very, very comfortable using all that pitch lab stuff. He's not a young coach, but he's been doing it for some time, as long as anybody. And maybe Rob Childress is a little more old school, and maybe that doesn't work. I don't know. But the name and the track record and the fact that he spent 17 years as a head coach right near the heart of Houston makes a lot of sense in terms of bringing in a pitching coach. LSU is always going to recruit South Texas very hard. Rob Childress knows some folks around there. So that's a name that I would toss in there. And again, I don't know what his interest is in it, but we'll see. A name that I heard Matt bring up yesterday, and it's just, you got to check on the flavors of the week, right? And Corey Muscara is the pitching coach at Wake Forest. And Wake Forest right now is pitching the ball significantly better than everyone in college baseball. That's just the way it goes. He's got a really talented staff, but that's what you're going to have at LSU. And Ryan Lauder's been phenomenal for them. He's been the ACC Pitcher of the Year a couple times. Rhett Lauder, a couple times. And they've got a full rotation full of guys. So there's nothing like super impressive about Muscara's resume pre-Wake Forest that's like he's this rising star, but they do have one heck of a roster and one productive roster right now. So maybe that's a guy who is a rising star, who is a little bit younger a coach and does want to get into the mix and come down to the SEC and mix it up here. we'll see. Again, I don't know, and I don't expect that we'll get an answer on any of this in the next week, hopefully. If LSU goes to Omaha, I don't think you hear about hiring a pitching coach. Certainly, Jay is one, fielding phone calls, and two, making them as well, but there are bigger fish to fry for LSU. One thing I will add to this pitching coach search is you're in the market with Mississippi State. And while I think everyone listening would say, oh, well, she's a way better spot than Mississippi State. You want Starkville? Would they have been last in the league for the last 2 years? And they're going to fire their coach? Oh, that's true. Absolutely. But Mississippi State has a big budget, a gorgeous facility, and is a really, really good job to have if you do it well. Now, if you go up there and it doesn't go very well and they fire Chris Lemonis after year one, well, you may have made a mistake. And that's kind of what we saw with Ed Ogeron trying to hire coordinators towards the end there in 2021. So I get that. And maybe it's no consideration at all. And if you're someone who is interested very heavily in the Mississippi State pitching coach job, maybe you have your agent or whatever reach out to Jay and say, hey, I'm interested in this Mississippi State job. Is there a chance that I can chat with you? That may happen. But you always kind of look at the carousel that you're spinning with. And right now, in terms of high-profile pitching coach spots, Mississippi State would be the biggest one. Scott Foxhall has been fired, and they're going to be in the market. So I have no doubt Jay is all over this and is going to do a really good job with bringing in the next pitching coach. I just don't know exactly who it's going to be. Some of those names made a little bit of sense, so I wanted to bring those up. So Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Appreciate you hanging out with us. It'll be a What If Wednesday in 15 minutes. Those of you in the Bayou Ford chat over on YouTube, you want to throw in some what ifs, we'll get to those. We got a ton of them that have rolled in on Twitter, some pretty serious, some not. If you want to throw some non-sports, but I got a Seinfeld one coming up later that I can't wait to get to. But we'll get to the What If Wednesdays coming up at 1:30 and some interesting college football stuff coming up at 2 o'clock. But after we take this time out, we're going to come back with Darren Headrick, play-by-play voice of the Kentucky Wildcats. What was this past weekend like in Kentucky, and what is this Wildcats roster looking like as they head down to Baton Rouge for the second time this spring? That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco when it's Government Taco? Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. We'll hear from Jay Johnson as the Tigers continue to get ready for the Baton Rouge Super Regional against Kentucky. And it's a Whiskey Wednesday. Join us, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Kentucky and LSU from Alex Box Stadium, 2 o'clock. First pitch on Saturday. Ticket to Omaha on the line. Joining the Kentucky Wildcats on the travel down here will be Darren Headrick, the play-by-play voice of Kentucky baseball. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Derek, thanks for your time. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time of year. I got to imagine. I mean, I saw the scene in Lexington over the weekend. It appears they're pretty excited, too.
Oh, no question, man. We had some tremendous crowds, and it was great to see. I think we broke the record for a crowd on Saturday night against Indiana, and then they broke it again 2 days later on Monday night in the decisive Game 7 of the regional. So BBN has really rallied around this Kentucky baseball team, and it was a sight to see.
Heck of a thing when you spend some money on a new stadium. What can happen? It was an incredible environment on TV in Lexington. I'm sure it was awesome to be there in person. I'm curious your opinion after Kentucky loses that, what we call the marble game, that 1-0 game, to come back offensively the way they did the next day really impressed me. What did you see?
You know what? I saw a tremendous resolve from that Kentucky team, and that's something we have seen from this group all season long. They've had moments of adversity, and there's been times where it would have been easy for a team to maybe fold or just kind of lose their way, and this team didn't do that. And after losing Saturday night, Coach Mingione addressed the media and the team and said, hey, we've got to win 3 games, and I think it was like 36 hours, something like that. But Kentucky's been there before as a program. When they went to their first Super Regional in 2017, they had to do it out of the loser's bracket. And so Coach Mingione kept telling his guys, hey, I've been there. I know how to get us through this, but you've got to go out there and just continue to fight and take it one pitch at a time, one inning at a time. And to their credit, that's exactly what they did.
Obviously, Kentucky got off to such a great start, and the schedule got a little tougher in the meat of SEC play, and they took their lumps over the course of a few weekends. But what has allowed them to come back on the other side of it and find a way to fight their way to the Super Regional?
I think it's just a group of guys that have come together. There's no individuals on this team. And Hunter Gillum, our first baseman, he transferred in from Longwood, and he's one of the guys that he calls portal guys on this team. And he referred early in the season to a lot of the older guys on this team. He said, hey, look, we're a bunch of older guys that have never won anything. And I think you look up and down the roster, and Ryder Giles, when he was at East Carolina, he's been there. He's won a few regionals and has been to the Supers. But outside of that, like Hunter Gillum had never even played in a conference tournament before he came to Kentucky. And he said, we're a bunch of older guys who've never won anything, and we want to accomplish something with the time that we have left. And so it's just been a tremendous story with guys like him and Jackson Gray, Darren Williams, who got that 7th year after tearing his UCL, had to have Tommy John surgery, came back this year. And then you develop some younger guys. And it's just been a tremendous story. And they're playing for the name on the front of the jersey instead of the name on the back. And I know that sounds cliche, but when teams do that, they become very dangerous. And that's what we've seen from this group.
Chatting with Darren Headrick, he's the play-by-play voice of Kentucky baseball. Wildcats headed to the box this weekend for the Baton Rouge Super Regional. All right, let's go back to the weekend that Kentucky was in Alex Box Stadium back in April. Tigers really handled business behind Paul Skeens in Game 1. Kentucky comes back and wins Game 2, and Game 3 was really, really tight. What are your recollections of that 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, in Baton Rouge?
I remember a fun series that felt like a preview of a playoff series. I mean, it was just an incredible atmosphere, and, of course, we expected that from LSU fans at Alex Box Stadium. Everybody knows the mystique of the place, and, you know, I go back to Hunter Gillum again because he told us after the first game when they faced Paul Skeens, and it was just such a rough start for Kentucky in that game, being down 14 before they had popped the popcorn. And he said, hey, I remember standing in the batter's box, and it felt like the earth under my feet was shaking. The fans were so loud and into it. And so they know the environment. But like I said, the thing I take away from it were two teams that went toe-to-toe. Kentucky went in there with something to prove, and LSU was LSU, and it became a tremendous series, and I'm looking forward to the rematch this weekend. I think we're going to have some fun this weekend.
There's no question about that. So in that series, Kentucky went to Zach Heise as a starter on Thursday, Logan Martin on Friday, and Tyler Bosma on Saturday. It would not surprise me if none of those three started this weekend. Kentucky's a team that's just got a lot of depth in pitching, and they've shifted some roles around. When you look at Nick Migione and what he's looking at this weekend, who would you expect to see as starting pitchers for Kentucky this weekend?
You know, I think you're going to see some kind of combination of what we saw in the regionals. I think you're going to see Travis Smith, who, when Kentucky was at LSU the first time around, Travis was the midweek starter. He's a redshirt freshman out of Walton, Kentucky, which is, towards Cincinnati. And he really blossomed towards the end of the season and took over that Friday night role with Logan Martin having some non-throwing related injuries. And so I think you're going to see him. I think you'll see Darren Williams. Zach Lee has really come on strong towards the last month or so, towards the end of the season. His slider has become a plus pitch and a wipeout pitch. So I think you'll see those three names. Mason Moore, Indiana's coach Jeff Mercer, described his sinker as trying to attack a 94-mile-an-hour bowling ball. He threw 10 scoreless innings over 2 appearances in the regional. There's another name I would look for. And so you've got a number of guys, and they didn't even pitch one of their best late-inning guys, Seth Chavez, who could close for Kentucky. They didn't even throw him at all in the regional. So there's a combination of guys, and like you mentioned, Kentucky's got a lot of depth. So I'm interested to see how they'll use it this weekend against LSU.
Yeah, Mason Moore was next on my list to ask you about, Darren. My gut tells me, just from watching the regional and looking at statistics, that the first time that Nick Migione sees a chance to win a game, whether that's on Saturday or on Sunday, he's going to be the guy. Does that sound right?
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit. What name did you mention?
Sure, Mason Moore. The first time in the middle innings, I would imagine that Kentucky sees a chance to win a game. I would have to think that's where Nick Migione would go, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And Mason is a fantastic story because he took his lumps last year as a freshman in SEC play, and his slider really developed over the off-season under pitching coach Dan Rozelle and summer ball. And to complement that sinker, he's really developed into one of the more dominant relievers. So, yeah, if Kentucky's got a lead and things start looking shaky even in the 5th or 6th inning, you could probably look to see if number 20 is warming up in the bullpen getting ready to come in because he's been absolutely lights out.
Everybody's got to have a stopper. It looks like that's Kentucky's at this point in the calendar. Let's switch to the offensive side of things, Darren, and look at this team in an era, in a year where everyone's feeling very offensive. Everybody's hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Those numbers are out of control. Kentucky's doing it a little bit of a different way. Can you describe their identity?
Yeah, so, I've heard a lot of people that kind of look at Kentucky from afar or just kind of casually pay attention. They call it small ball or West Coast ball, but it's actually more versatile than that. They will hit home runs. They've got line drive power. The folks that in Baton Rouge that went to the series saw some of that from Kentucky, but they'll bunt. They use a lot of their speed. They'll steal bases. The identity of this team is to be on the attack and create chaos. I think that's the simplest way to put it. Coach Mingione, at the start of the season, he mentioned taking some inspiration from how Tennessee football attacks defenses with their speed. They go up tempo with the turbo offense. They try to create chaos, get the defense in bad alignments, create mistakes in the secondary. And that's kind of what Kentucky wants to do on the base paths and on the diamond. They want to attack and put pressure on the opposing defense, make them make plays. And if they do, you tip your cap to them. But, you want to capitalize and see if you can score some quick runs and get the momentum going.
Conventional baseball wisdom would suggest if you are behind in a game, you play a little more conservatively. When you have seen Kentucky fall behind, do they still put the pedal to the metal with bunts and stolen bases and all that?
Yes, they will, depending on the situation. If they get down 6 or 7 runs, then you start weighing, well, how valuable is that stolen base versus the risk of losing the base runner? So, there's obvious baseball things that come into that, but Kentucky will still be on the attack. And one other thing they do that kind of goes under the radar is the approach at the plate. If they sense that the pitcher's struggling to throw strikes, they will become very patient. But otherwise, they're looking to be on the attack. And so even when they're behind, if they get the opportunity to get a swing off, just like any other baseball team, they're going to do it. But, they're still their identity is what got them here, and they stick to it.
Is there a bat or two that's hot at this point, or is the catalyst more often than not, or somebody that Nick Mingione will look to and say, hey, you gotta lead us?
You know what? A lot of times with this offense, they kind of go as their leadoff man, Jackson Gray, goes. But that's kind of every team, right? Yeah. However good your leadoff guy is how well you tend to do in the game, because he gets on base and sets the table and starts handing the baton to the next guy. And so, Jackson Gray's the starter for this team in that leadoff spot. But I don't know if we have enough time for me to tell you how much I enjoy watching Devin Burks, their catcher. And that young man is red hot. And when the light is brightest, he tends to be at his best. He was the most outstanding player in the Lexington Regional, given that award. He was on the all-region team. And he was a big reason why Kentucky came from the loser's bracket and won that regional. I mean, his swing is just pure and smooth right now. His two-strike approach is on point. And so, look for Devin Burks. Grant Smith has been solid in the 9-hole spot. And so just up and down the order, you've got guys that are contributing. But Devin Burks is really right now kind of the heart and soul of this offense with the way he's playing.
You mentioned setting attendance records last week at Kentucky Proud Park. What would a super regional win and a trip to Omaha mean for this program?
Boy, that's almost hard to put into words just because they've never done it before. Yep. And, talking with Coach Keith Madison, who's done some color with me on the radio, he came agonizingly close several years ago. They were an out or two away from Omaha. This was back before you had the super regional, and they were playing Stanford, and they were so close. And Stanford rallied and stole that game and went on to the College World Series. And so, it would mean everything is the short answer and the easiest answer. And for this group of guys, I can't imagine what the celebration would be like if they were able to accomplish that this weekend.
Well, Darren, safe travels down to Baton Rouge and enjoy the weekend of baseball. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Anytime. Look forward to seeing everybody in Baton Rouge. And between the two teams, it should be a great atmosphere. Let's have some fun.
I can promise you that. Safe travels, Darren. Thanks.
Thank you.
He is Darren Headrick, play-by-play voice of the Kentucky Wildcats. Never been to Omaha. This would be quite a place to punch that ticket. We all hope that does not happen. But I am I have some keys to what's going to go on. I've looked at this Kentucky team pretty extensively and then watched them, of course, a lot this year. This is not a team that you've got to learn. We've seen them plenty and obviously saw them down in Baton Rouge. So I'll give my thoughts on this series in the days to come, tomorrow and again on Friday before we get ready for Saturday's first pitch. But wanted to get the Kentucky side of things and appreciate Darren for coming on and helping us out. And incidentally, Friday's show going to be at Walk-Ons, Burbank and not Walk-Ons, at Rouse's, Burbank and Lee. Be at Rouse's, Burbank and Lee. We're there most Fridays for our remotes. T-Bob's there. I've been there a good bit. But me and Matt are going to be broadcasting live at Rouse's on Friday, just kind of getting ready for the Super Regional. Very excited to get out there and kind of get out of the studio and have a little fun. So we're looking forward to that full show Friday from the Rouse's, Burbank and Lee. When we come back, it's a What If Wednesday on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
on Thursday's OTB. Hear from LSU head baseball coach Jay Johnson. Plus, the latest from LSU football camp, who stood out, big deal or no big deal, and a brand new edition of Munchies. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So, we've been talking about the fact that college football is splitting in half. It's pretty evident. I'll give more evidence of that at the top of hour number 2. Some NBA Finals talk coming here in 15 minutes. But first, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
What if the forecast is bad for Saturday?
I mean, Jay's obviously going to wait. He waited last week. And for those that think that's kind of unprecedented, it is very much not. Paul Mainieri held Kevin Gausman in Game 1 of the 2012 Super Regional against Stony Brook. That was an 11 o'clock first pitch on Friday, and he hated the forecast, and he was not going to get Gausman up and have to sit him down, so they went with Aaron Nola, which now that Aaron Nola became the National Pitcher of the Year and a major leaguer, you're like, well, it's enough, but he was a freshman then, so it was a little bit different at the time. But Paul Mainieri just straight up held his starter a day because he was not willing to have that happen. And if Jay believes there is a significant chance of lightning at 3:30 on Saturday, he'll throw Ty Floyd out there. Like I don't have any doubt about that. Ty pitched on Sunday very briefly, and so he's gonna be ready to go on Saturday if need be. So that is absolutely a factor and a reason why he's not going to give you a starter when he meets with the media. I think he does in 15 minutes, and he's certainly not going to give you a starter if he has I think they have a press conference on Friday when both teams practice. You won't get a starting pitcher from him. He will announce a starter 90 minutes before the game starts via the lineup card. That's how it's going to work. And if they bump the game back to 7 o'clock, I would imagine he will have a conversation with Ty Floyd and Paul Skeens and go, hey, we're going to do everything we can to avoid Paul on Saturday getting up and having to sit down. So, Ty, you need to be ready to go on Saturday. Paul, you need to be ready to go on Saturday. And I will let y'all know 90 minutes before or as early as I can tell you who is going to pitch, but y'all need to be mentally ready. I think that's probably how this thing goes. And trust me, if he hates the forecast, Skeens will pitch on Sunday, assuming that forecast is better.
What if Paul Skeens breaks Ben McDonald's strikeout record and Dylan Cruz breaks Rafe Rhymes' average record of 431 and we win the Natty? Where does this team rank all time?
It's really good. Again, I defer. I can't give total perspective on 91 and 93, not even 96, really. I was just too young and didn't watch them. They weren't on TV. I don't have a good handle on what those teams looked like. This team would be right up there with 09 in my eyes, and right up there with 2000, probably better. Had certainly as much star power as either one of those two teams. And so, yeah, DJ LeMahieu's phenomenal. And Ryan Schiff played the big leagues a long time, and Lewis Coleman was National Pitcher of the Year, and Anthony Renato was great. And they had dudes. Mikey Mottuk was on that team in 09, and the 2000 team had Cressy, who is about as decorated a player as there has been in LSU history. Certainly Furness would be up there above that, but Cressy was phenomenal for his time there. And Brad Haupt played in the big leagues, and Ryan Terrio played in the big leagues, and Mike Fontenot played in the big leagues, and Wally was on that team, and that team was really good too. This one, in terms of star power, accomplishments, yeah, it's gonna be right up there if they can handle all that.
What if Jerry and Newman put aside their differences and became close friends?
This is Nookie on Twitter who throws a Seinfeld one in there. If Jerry and Newman had put aside their differences and become close friends, well, that would have been terrible for content because I loved the rivalry. I loved many of the issues when Jerry was dating a woman who previously went up to Newman and he broke up with her. Jerry just had to be done with it. Some of the Newman stuff is just unbelievable with the mail fraud and all that. it's quality. And I do not want them to be friends and don't think they would be friends because I don't find either one of them to be very inviting people. I think they're very negative people, and which is why they repel each other so much. But I could talk about Seinfeld all day.
Well, you're going to talk about it a little bit more. There's another one. What if they had still been real but not spectacular?
Oh, well, I mean, she was pretty proud, so
yeah.
The evidence is that they were pretty. I mean, and look, and Jackie Childs, he's an attorney. He's part of the a truthful profession, and he says they're spectacular.
Yeah.
So I think you gotta assume that they certainly were.
Yeah. All right, last one here. What if Nick Saban doesn't run a QB draw with Matt Mock in 0-2 versus Florida while up 36-7?
It changes a lot of things, I guess, and I think it's probably all for the best that happened because that fractured foot created two things. One, it created the Bluegrass Miracle because a couple weeks later, LSU goes up there with Marcus Randall and they get into a tougher game than maybe they would have with Mock healthy, and they have to throw the Bluegrass Miracle, and we get that moment in LSU football history, and so that's obviously a good thing. And two, we were told that because Mock's foot was hurt and they were nursing it back to health, he had to really work on staying in the pocket a little bit more and not becoming just this running quarterback. Either that's true or just the fact that, hey, you got hurt, you need to rein this thing in a little bit. That may have been the case as well. But either way, Mock the next year set a bunch of passing records when he had really just been an athletic quarterback who ran around a good bit. So I think that broken foot may be the most fortunate injury that LSU football had. I don't want to tell Matt that, but because it wasn't my foot that got broken. But you get the Bluegrass Miracle and you get a national championship offense out of it the next year. Pretty good trade-off.
I actually have one more here. What if Brady Neal doesn't get injured midseason and Hayden Travinski is never elevated above third on the depth chart at catcher? What/where is LSU offensively right now?
Look, Brady was not swinging the bat great when he got hurt. It stands to reason that Milazzo would have gotten some more at-bats. I don't know that it would have gotten all the way to Travinski. Now, Jay says he's been watching him in practice, watching him develop, watching him get better, and maybe he does get a chance. And if you would have actually put him out there in the game against Ole Miss and that thunder would have happened, maybe that triggers a Tuesday at bat, and maybe it still does happen. But it's hard to imagine them sitting Brady Neal. It certainly could have happened, but he is such a talented player, and my gut tells me he would have gotten better as the season went on. But it's certainly something to think about, and it's why I went into this whole thing yesterday, and I will kind of hit on it here today. Like, we can sit there in January and early February and tell you what we think is going to happen, but the fact is that over 56 games, things get weird, and you play a lot of baseball. You use a lot of lineups, a lot of different guys play, injuries happen, and you find inevitably somebody who shows up and does some things that you could not have forecasted. And I could have forecasted Brady Neal becoming the starting catcher. I could have forecasted Alex Milazzo being a little bit more productive offensively and garnering more playing time. I would have had a hard time getting to Hayden Travinski being the cleanup hitter and starting catcher. That would have taken a lot of imagination, and I just don't know that I had that much in me in January. So it's a heck of a story, and certainly one that I hope continues because he's been awesome. Hopefully Brady's doing okay. I was thrilled to see that Brady's still in Baton Rouge, still with the team. Sometimes guys go out for the summer or they go rehab or do whatever they're going to do, and Brady's still there. He's at the games. He's hanging out at practice. He's present while they go on this run, and I believe Brady Neal is going to be a huge piece to what LSU does in the next 2 years, and I believe he's going to play in regionals and super regionals and play in Omaha, and I like him to get a look at it here. And I'm a little concerned that most of these guys have never seen anything like what they're going to see this weekend, but Brady's going to get a chance to look at it a little bit before he gets out there and plays in them next year. So it's a bummer that Brady's been out, but I'm glad he's around the team at this point. So that's it for a What If Wednesday. Appreciate y'all for firing away on Twitter. That is always appreciated. Create a little content here for us. We got a lot to get to in hour number 2 on this Wednesday. We'll go through some college football. The blue chip ratio is a metric that 24/7 came up with, and I've got some deeper thoughts on it. Matt, Jacob, and T-Bob went into it a little bit this morning, I should say, about who's underperforming, who's overperforming. I'm looking at it from a different lens as to where the talent is in college football. We got Keith Law's draft big board, some super regional lines and odds that we can get to in hour number 2. And, of course, Chris Demui always talk to our Southpaw at 2:30 on Wednesday. So come back with us to close out hour number 1 on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana like Acadian Companies. Acadian Companies has a focus on quality improvement and patient care, and the company continues to grow and expand their service areas and offerings. Acadian's been a model in emergency transport with operations now spanning 4 states and covering a population of more than 24 million people. And that's obviously massively important to what Acadian Companies does, but also it's the philanthropy that they do, like their Hometown Heroes program that partners with local high schools to train and prepare students for a career as a licensed EMT. That provides a career path for a young person and makes a difference in people's lives as that young person takes a career saving lives. Acadian Companies is such a shining light here in South Louisiana, and we're thrilled to tell you about them as a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate them so we can tell their story right here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Acadian Companies is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off plus 0.9% APR for 60 months on all new 22 Ford F-150 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I drove myself to the ER, had heart surgery, and drove myself home 24 hours later, feeling fine. Starting running again after the procedure, I'm getting excited thinking about it. I had no pain, nothing. I felt great. And right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm back. I'm back. It's just amazing.
Ochsner Health. Long live you.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. We'll hear from Jay Johnson as the Tigers continue to get ready for the Baton Rouge Super Regional against Kentucky, and it's a Whiskey Wednesday. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, closing out hour number 1 here. Don't know that scene in Austin Powers where he's talking to Will Ferrell and he goes, "Why won't you die?" He's trying to kill him, throwing him off a cliff, and all, and then Will Ferrell's character just won't die. That's kind of the way I feel about the Heat. It just won't go away. Threw Giannis at him, that'll do it. That's enough. No. Threw Boston at him. Well, then they just run right through Boston for 3 games, but then Boston's got him on the ropes. Like, okay, this is it. They don't die. And they come out in game 1 against Denver, get smoked. Okay, they finally met. Game 2, right back. They win the game. They won't die. So it would make no sense to predict their demise at this point, right? Like, haven't you seen enough? Haven't you seen enough of Spoelstra? Haven't you seen enough of Jimmy Butler? Haven't you seen enough of Heat culture to know that they're going to get this thing done? No, I haven't. I'm taking the Nuggets, minus a 3.5. I think they're better. I don't think that Miami's got a great home court advantage. And I think that the Nuggets will cover. I've been dead wrong on just about everything I've done in the NBA for the last month. So I have no false securities about the fact that this is going to be right. My head tells me, take the better team with the better player. And so I'm going to. Well, on this show. I'm probably not going to log into the app and actually place the wager. But that's just the way I feel. I could not, in good conscience, place a wager in this game against Nikola Jokic. I mean, do you watch this guy? I don't know. There are plenty of guys in the NBA who do things that I have not quite seen before. Giannis looks a little different than just about anything I've seen before. Steph Curry looks a little bit different than anything I've really seen before. And Nikola Jokic looks different than just about anything I've ever seen before. He's a one-man tempo creator. You can't really speed him up. You can't really slow him down. He just kind of goes where he's going to go and does what he's going to do. The guy that's guarding him is probably too small or not quick enough, and his ability to see the floor, read the play, and make the correct decision and do it properly is ridiculous. You ever watch his passes? Watch the highlight package on SportsCenter after a game. Every time he has an assist, it hits the guy right in the pocket so they can shoot. He's just a technical wizard. I know Jimmy Butler's awesome. I know he might score 50 tonight. I know Spoelstra's got 2 more days to prepare. I know they're at home. I'm going with Denver. I did say in Take It or Leave It on Monday that I no longer think that Denver's going to win it in 5. That seems like a stretch. But I do think that they will retake control of the series tonight. I'm still at the point right now that it would not stun me. It would surprise me if the Heat won. And that's not exactly a hot take, but some are like, oh, well, they keep winning. Keep doubting them. I will doubt them. I think that the Nuggets are going to win tonight. The line's 3.5 down there in Miami. It's a 7:30 tip-off our time on ABC. And I got the Nuggets, and I will lay the 3.5 on the road. You want the home dog? They're all yours. I'll take the 7-foot guy that makes every play. That's it for hour number 1. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand, 1045 ESPN.com's on-demand tab. All our shows are there. Off the Bench, Live at Lunch, Hunt Palmer Show, AFR, all on the website. Or you can go to Spotify. You can go to Google Podcast. You can go to Apple Podcast. You can go to YouTube. And if you go to YouTube, would really appreciate if you subscribe to our 2 channels. We got Hunt on LSU, all LSU football. We got Hunt on Saints, all Saints football. Our Saints channel really starting to do some better numbers. That NFL crowd is voracious. They want it all. And we're giving it to you. So if you're a big Saints fan, want to hear my thoughts in the black and gold, every time we do a Saints segment, it is uploaded right to Hunt on Saints every single day. So subscribe to Hunt on LSU and Hunt on Saints. It'll show up right there. But if you're looking for today's show on demand, here's what you're going to get. I gave you some thoughts on some potential pitching coaches for LSU. Looked at Nate Yeske, looked at Rob Childress, looked at Wake Forest, looked at Jason Jackson at Alabama. And kind of mention the fact that you're in the market with Mississippi State. What does that mean? That was at 1 o'clock. Darren Headrick was great. He is the play-by-play voice of Kentucky baseball. Give you a thought on this pitching staff and what we will see. I don't think any of the three guys who pitched against Kentucky, against LSU back in the box in March are going to be on the mound in starting capacity this weekend. So he kind of gave some thoughts on that, plus their offense and what's working for Kentucky so well over the weekend. It was a What If Wednesday. We did some Seinfeld. We did some football. We did some baseball. Always a lot of fun there on What If Wednesday. And that was just my thought on the NBA Finals. Very much looking forward to the second hour. We have betting odds and lines for the Super Regional weekend. We've got Keith Law's Big Board. Where are LSU's top dogs on this team, and where are some of their signees? And might they be able to get those folks to Baton Rouge? I'll give you some of those thoughts at 2:15. We always chat with Chris Demui at 2:30. Very much look forward to doing that today as the host of the 60 Feet 6 Inches LSU Baseball Podcast. We'll jump aboard at 2:30, and we'll always finish things up with Take It or Leave It. After Sports Center, come back for some college football talk. I've got some thoughts on this blue chip ratio that 24/7 does. Not just like, oh, Texas has a lot of blue chips and they don't win. It's still deeper than that, and I think it's a little bit concerning to me. We'll talk about it after Sports Center. Coming right up on the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. Where personalities clash and chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
The best-kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Rory McIlroy speaking today ahead of the RBC Canadian Open on the union formed by the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and Live Golf. He said he is one of the PGA Tour's strongest defenders, also one of the biggest critics of Live. He admitted it's hard for him to not feel somewhat like a sacrificial lamb. And regarding his feelings about Live, McIlroy didn't hold back.
I still hate Live. I hate Live. I hope it goes away, and I would fully expect that it does. And I think that's where the distinction here is. This is the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the PIF. Very different from Live.
PIF is Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, the exclusive investor of the new Golf Union. South Beach in the NBA spotlight as the finals shift to Miami for Game 3 tonight for the Nuggets and Heat. All tied up at a game apiece. Discipline and defense, the focus for Denver from Coach Michael Malone after that dismal performance in the fourth quarter of Sunday's loss. Game 3, 7:30 Eastern, ESPN Radio, 8:30 Eastern on ABC.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, half the work week in the rearview mirror. It is a Wednesday here in the capital city. Hope your work week is rolling right along, working towards the weekend now. Going to be a big one in Baton Rouge. Super regional action getting underway at 2 o'clock between LSU and Kentucky. We talked a little about that in the first hour. We will again 30 minutes from right now in hour number 2 with Chris DeMue. But I want to talk some football here today. And I wanted to go to 24/7 Sports. And Bud Elliott does a great job going through what he calls the blue chip ratio every year and discussing some of the teams that meet the criteria. If you're not familiar, didn't hear the guys this morning talking about the blue chip ratio, is the ratio of 4- and 5-star recruits to your entire team. And essentially, if you don't have a better than a 50% ratio of 4- and 5-star recruits, you can't win. That's it. Georgia, national champion this past year, as you'd imagine, did just fine. 77% of their roster was 4- and 5 stars. 2 years ago when they won it, even better, 80%. Bama was even better than that, and that's who they beat in the final. 2020, Bama was 83%. 2019, LSU was 64%. Clemson 61%. The year before that in 18, Alabama won it all in 17 with an 80% mark. You get the picture. Teams that are pulling in a ton of 4- and 5-star recruits can win a national championship. Nobody else can. And we kind of saw that when TCU showed up. Right? So this has had to be workshopped a little bit because of the transfer portal, but Bud Elliott allows for that. And if you want to read the story, you can on 24/7. It's up there, and you can find it for free. And it's interesting. It's an interesting story. But he gives the teams that are over 50% this year. There's 15 of them. And it stands to reason that those 15 are the only 15 teams that have a chance to win a national championship this year. Because since Bud Elliott's been doing this, no one has ever won a championship under 50%. You got Alabama at the top with 90%, which is ridiculous. You got Ohio State with 85, Georgia with 77, Texas A&M with 73. They're in 4th place. Clemson at 72, LSU at 71. That's sixth place for your Fighting Tigers of LSU, followed behind Texas and Oklahoma that are at 70% both. Oregon at 67, Notre Dame at 65, Florida 64, Miami 61, Penn State 55, Michigan 54, Southern Cal 52, and Auburn at 51. Those are your 15 teams. And as I start to look at that, I go at the top. Okay, Alabama's in the SEC, Ohio State's in the Big Ten, Georgia's in the SEC, A&M's in the SEC, LSU's in the SEC, Texas is going to the SEC, Oklahoma's going to the SEC, Florida's in the SEC, Penn State and Michigan are in the Big Ten, USC's going to the Big Ten, Auburn is in the SEC. To find teams outside of the SEC and Big Ten, you've got Clemson at 72%, right there in fifth place. You've got Oregon at 67, right there at ninth. Notre Dame at 10th, and Miami at 12th. That's it. There's only 4. So, to me, as we continue to talk about this growing chasm in the sport between the haves and the have-nots, and then the haves building themselves up with Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC and USC going to the Big Ten, that's 3 of the teams in this 15 that have shifted from conferences that are underrepresented to go into the SEC and Big Ten where all the money is and now all the players are and all the championships will be. And I just continue to look at it, and it's hard for me to love it. I want the sport to be a national one. I want there to be interest all over the place in different conferences, on different coasts, in different regions. It feels better when it's relevant everywhere. And it just feels like that's going away. And I've come to terms with it, and I'm going to be okay with it. The NFL does fine with a limited amount of teams. We don't need Kansas State. We don't need Washington. We don't need Arizona State. They're not that relevant in January anyway. And that's where this thing's all headed. But as I look at the blue chip ratio and I look at the teams that can compete, and they're all playing in 2 conferences, save Clemson, Oregon, and Notre Dame, Miami, it's just like, okay, we're going to get there. We're going to get to a spot where it's just 2 conferences. You got the Big Ten and the SEC, and that's who you play, and that's what you do. And I know that sounds super awesome to some of you. It's like, oh my God, I love the AFC and the NFC. Let's just make it the Big Ten and the SEC, and let's do it. Let's cut out every single game where you played Troy and you played Rice and you played Southern Miss and you played Western Kentucky and you played Toledo. Just cut all those games out. Just change. People hate change, right? But that's where this thing is headed. And I think as I look to every single metric points that way, and you hear the ACC talking about falling $40 million a school behind, and you hear the Pac-12 agreeing to a grant of rights thing today that they're hoping to try to keep Oregon and Washington around. But it's just, the sport's just shrinking down. And this is evidence of it. Because we know, based on overwhelming evidence, that if you're not on this list, you don't matter. Don't tell me TCU. Don't tell me Cincinnati. Don't tell me Michigan State. We saw what happened. This is what matters. Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, A&M, Clemson, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Oregon, Notre Dame, Florida, Miami, Penn State, Michigan, USC, Auburn. Got all the 4 and 5 stars. 3-star armies can't compete. They may win a battle here or there. Not sure what happened in the TCU Michigan game, but they won't win the war. And ultimately, the war is the goal. And these are the teams that are going to do it. And they all play in 2 leagues. I don't know what happens to the ACC if the expanded playoff allows 2 teams to sneak in after beating up on Boston College, Georgia Tech, and Duke for 4 months. I don't know if Clemson and Florida State can wiggle out of this thing and find an attorney that can find a clause somewhere that allows for an escape hatch. But I think it's going to be harder and harder and harder for Clemson and Miami and Oregon to stay on this list and to continue to recruit at that level if the evidence is overwhelming that the more competitive, more relevant championship level football is being played elsewhere. It's just going to be difficult for me to be the head coach at Oregon and sell going to play Washington State and Arizona State and Stanford when SC and UCLA are going to play Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State. It's just a tough sell. I know they got cool uniforms, but who are you playing? Who's watching? It's just another piece of evidence. It's the championships, it's the playoff appearances, it's the recruiting rankings, it's the television data, it's the money, it's everything pointing in one direction. And this blue chip ratio is just another thing to add on top of that. And I'm glad LSU's sitting there at 6th. That makes me happy because that means you're relevant and you can compete and win it. And I don't think LSU's going anywhere. But you just feel the landscape shaking, and it's tilting one direction. And I thought that this was interesting, and I'm curious how Texas and Oklahoma handle that. Incidentally, the teams just outside this list that we didn't mention, Tennessee, North Carolina, Florida State. Toss a couple more ACC teams in there, but they're not there. Tennessee probably will get there if Heupel throws together one more class behind some wins. So I just think it's interesting. Check out the list. It's on 24/7 Sports. Buddy Elliott does it every single year. Goes through, puts it together, and man, Bama having 90% is borderline comical at this point. To have 90% 4 and 5 stars, and everybody's kind of writing Bama off at this point. Who's their quarterback? What are they going to do? They almost lost 4 games last year. 90% blue chip recruits. They'll probably be a pretty decent football team, if I had to guess. All right, we'll transition back to baseball here. We've got some odds on the Super Regionals. I'll give you LSU's odds over in Vegas. And Keith Law's got a big board. 1, you want to know where LSU's big dogs are. 2, what about that signing class? Well, there are a couple of guys that we need to talk about. We will do that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. Tell you about them every day. OneBathAndClosets.com. Go to the website. It offers you a number of things. 1, you can request a free consultation from David Duvall and his team. Doesn't cost you anything for David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets to come over and tell you what they can do. 2, you can look at the testimonials, and they're all going to tell you David Duvall and his team show up. They put together a time frame and figure out how they're going to go about this project. They're going to show up on time. They're going to get it done on time. And they're not coming back 3 weeks later because they cut a corner to get to the next job. No, they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Maybe you've got a parent that's aging. I've told you this the last couple of days. And they want to stay in that home, but they need some updates to the bathroom or the closet to help them out. David Duvall and his team have been doing a ton of that lately. They can put in a walk-in tub that makes things easier getting in and out of the tub. They can do a number of things. You just got to get that free consultation and let him come over and do it. On this closet side, I tell you every single day, if you tell him the Hunt Palmer Show sent you to redesign or remodel your closet, he's not going to charge you to rip out the current closet. He's not going to charge you for the install of the new one. Just going to charge you for the cost of that unit. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. OneBathAndClosets.com.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch.
Coming up on Thursday's OTB, hear from LSU head baseball coach Jay Johnson. Plus, the latest from LSU football camp, who stood out, big deal or no big deal, and a brand new edition of Munchies. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 1045 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Got the odds out for the Super Regionals via DraftKings here that I'm looking at. LSU's the biggest favorite on the board. Wake might be, but Bama's not on the board. You can't bet on Bama, obviously, with what's going on over there the last month. So LSU's the biggest favorite at minus 235. Means you got to bet $2.35 to win $1 or $235 to win 100. But LSU is the biggest favorite on the board. I think a lot of that has to do with LSU's name brand 1 and Paul Skeens 2. I'm not going to go into a bunch of gambling stuff here because I know that's not necessarily why y'all listen to me very often. But there is one number on the board that I do like, and that's Southern Miss plus 135. They're the only plus team that I really like because they've got Tanner Hall to go in the first game, and they're at home. And we know that Tennessee is stunk on the road. Now, Tennessee's better than Southern Miss. I feel comfortable in saying that. But Tanner Hall's really good. He's going to pitch the first game, probably against Andrew Lindsay. And I like Southern Miss's chances in that game. So I like the fact that there's plus money coming back on Southern Miss. There's another underdog that I like, but it's not plus money, and it's Texas going out to Stanford. Texas has a 1-2 punch. You remember LeBaron Johnson. He's the guy that pitched against LSU. We talked about him on Monday. He was phenomenal against Miami over the weekend. He will probably pitch game 2 of that Super. And I like Texas going out there and having a real chance to win against Stanford. But Stanford's minus 125. Texas is minus 105. So we'll get into the Super Regionals moving forward on Thursday and Friday shows. But just wanted to get a little snapshot of that. LSU, the biggest favorite on the board at minus 235. Let's take a look at Keith Law's big board for the Major League Baseball draft that's coming up right after the 4th of July. About a month from today, you'll have MLB Draft, and we'll get into it in depth when that time comes. But Dylan Cruz is number 1 on Keith Law's big board. This is not necessarily it's not a mock draft. It's simply Keith Law's ranking of draft eligible players. And right now, he's got Dylan Cruz at number 1. He's got Paul Skeens at number 3. Wyatt Langford is ahead of Paul Skeens on Keith Law's big board. And look, he's really good. Wyatt Langford is an awesome player. And I think if one of the top 2 teams were to take him, I would not think twice about that. He's got big power, and he can play the outfield, and he's a heck of a player. But Skeens, he's got at 3. I did enjoy the little blurb about Paul Skeens on Keith Law's story that said he's the hardest throwing amateur starter I've ever seen, even beating out Hunter Green and Garrett Cole. When I saw him pitch at the box in April, he had 100 or 101 7 times in the first inning and did not throw a fastball under 96. He finishes up the story saying, if you're going into the draft hoping you can find a Justin Verlander type, he's your guy. So that's some pretty high praise there for Paul Skeens. Grant Taylor is number 93 on this list. Grant Taylor, of course, did not pitch this year. I don't have any inside information on Grant Taylor, and I don't know what kind of money he would command. I also don't know if there's any opportunity for him to pitch next year. If he's Javen Coleman's it, maybe. It's not like Coleman's been a huge key piece to LSU to this point. He has been able to get on the mound and pitch a little bit. But I don't know if Grant Taylor sees some benefit in coming back and trying to finish his 3rd year in school, or if he just signs, rehabs with the big league club, and goes out there and pitches when he's ready. But we'll see. Grant Taylor's at 93, and then he's got Ty Floyd at number 100. And I thought the scouting report that he gave, and that's the last number on this list, I thought the scouting report he gave on Ty Floyd was really accurate and quality. It talks about Floyd works mostly with his 92 to 96 mile an hour fastball, which has excellent carry up in the zone and gets on hitters very quickly because of how he hides the ball. And he finishes saying, you can dream on a kid with his size and a fastball that plays that well. And we all know that about Ty Floyd, that he's got a great fastball. And so he's number 100 on this list. But those guys are not of huge consequence. Dylan Cruz is going to be gone. Paul Skeens is going to be gone. Ty Floyd's going to be gone. And Grant Taylor may not pitch for LSU next year. He might. I don't know. But he may not. As far as the roster goes, those 4 guys moving into next year, not all that significant. The 2 guys on this list from the signing class are Blake Mitchell is number 22 on this list. And he's not going to come to LSU. I said that about a couple guys. I said that about Chase Shores last year. Here he is. And so I can certainly be wrong. But Blake Mitchell's from Sinton, Texas. He's a 6'1", 192-pound catcher. And Keith Law says he's the best high school catcher in the draft class, which probably puts him in the first round automatically, although the potential as a left-handed hitting catcher with power and plus defense also qualifies him. So he's got a skill set that scouts crave. It's a good defensive catcher who hits left-handed. Oh, by the way, LSU got fortunate last year and got one of those to campus in Brady Neal. But look, this is the highest profile player, Blake Mitchell, in LSU's signing class, and it comes at a not necessarily a position of need because you've got Brady Neal and you've got Jared Jones and you've got Ethan Fry. So this is a luxury. If he prices himself out and shows up, unbelievable, fantastic, love it. The odds are that's not going to look good. We'll get deeper into that as the year goes on, but Blake Mitchell, I'm not counting on. The interesting one is Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson is number 69 on Keith Law's big board, which puts you somewhere towards the end of the 2nd round, depending on compensatory picks. And I'll be quite frank with you, I haven't looked at how many there are this year, so that's something I'll do later on. But Cam Johnson pitches at IMG. He's 6'5", 240 and left-handed, and Law says this about Cam Johnson. He comes at hitters from a low 3/4 slot with a ton of deception, allowing his plus fastball, which has touched 98 miles an hour, to play up even further. His slider is wildly inconsistent, sometimes plus, sometimes below average, and he's barely used a changeup in high school. He missed the end of his senior season with elbow tendonitis, with no reports yet of anything structural, but the LSU commit's chances to go in the first round have probably evaporated. I'm certainly not going to get on here and cheerlead a high school player getting injured. That's ridiculous. But I have an obligation to you, the listener, to give you what I know. And look, this is not the same injury or the same position, but this is what happened to Alex Bregman. Alex broke his finger his senior year and didn't play very much, and they just couldn't justify making him a top 20 pick. having not played his senior year. So they didn't. And the phone rang, and he told him he's going to LSU eventually. And I don't know what Cam Johnson's situation is. He may have really no eyes on LSU. He may be really interested in coming to LSU. But I can tell you that a left-handed pitcher who at the age of 18 is 6'5", 240 and throws near 100 miles an hour can make a ton of money in the Major League Draft. A ton. $6 million, $8 million is in the realm of possibility. There aren't that many left-handed 18-year-olds that throw that hard. So if this tendonitis in his elbow and the fact that he did not pitch late and some medical concerns arise, that's a guy who may be better served coming to college and waiting for that huge payday a la Dylan Cruz. Cruz was thought of as a first-round pick, and then he struck out a bunch his senior year, and he wasn't. And he pulled his name out of the draft. So this one's interesting, and we'll monitor it, and this will be a July conversation, but the list came out today, and I thought it was worth going over. I think Cam Johnson is absolutely someone to watch. And LSU is going to have to really make over its pitching staff next year. You've got a lot of injuries that you weren't obviously counting on, and you're going to lose a couple guys. You're going to lose Skeens. You're going to lose Floyd. So what are you going to do with the rest of these guys? You're not going to get Shores back. You're not potentially going to get Taylor back. Not going to get Edwards back. All of a sudden, the guys that have been impact on this team that are going to be on next year's team, that number starts to shrink. And Cam Johnson would be a welcome addition as a 6'4" left-hander that throws 3/4 100 miles an hour. So do I think it's likely that LSU gets him? I don't. Do I think there's a better chance today than there was in March? I do. I couldn't tell you if that's 80% or 13%. I don't know. But it's worth monitoring, so we will. As I look for benchmarks in the summer months of things that we're going to talk about, the Major League Baseball draft is certainly one of those, and we will get into that heavily towards the back end of June and the beginning of July when they have it up at the All-Star game in Seattle. I think they do a good job of moving that draft back. Some college coaches hate it, but I like the fact that they're not getting drafted on the Tuesday of Super Regional Week. I think that's crazy. I think it's crazy that I've been out to an LSU Super Regional practice where GAs are literally holding a basket of cell phones waiting to go out and tell the second baseman that they're the 19th round pick of the Tigers. Like that just always rubbed me the wrong way. So I like the fact that it's moved back, it's out of the college season, and guys can focus on that when the time comes. So just thought that was interesting. Keith Law thinks a lot of Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens. We'll see what comes of Cam Johnson, lefty from IMG Academy. All right, speaking of lefties, who we hope play for the Tigers. We got one for the Tigers. It was Chris Demui back in the 90s, won a national championship. He is the host of the 60 Feet 6 Inches LSU baseball podcast. He will join us next in the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. We'll hear from Jay Johnson as the Tigers continue to get ready for the Baton Rouge Super Regional against Kentucky, and it's a Whiskey Wednesday. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
104.5 ESPN and Acura of Baton Rouge. Want to know how rad is your dad? You can upload a picture of your dad doing dad things to the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge now through June the 15th. So you got another week for a chance to win him a charter fishing trip for 4, courtesy of LouisianaCharterFishing.com. We'll choose a winner at random on June 16th. So happy Father's Day from Acura of Baton Rouge, LouisianaCharterFishing.com, and 104.5 ESPN. I'm trying to think of the rad things that my dad might do. My dad pretty much just plays golf and watches TV. I don't know if either one of those pictures is going to make it up on the I don't think it's going to win. He's just not going to be out there, weed whacking. He's not going to be out there, cutting the shrubs or fixing the fence out there. That's just not going to happen at the Palmer house. Nor am I going to do any of those things either. I pretty much just watch TV and try to play golf, even though I don't play golf very often. I don't even consider the fact that I'm a dad now. That didn't even cross my mind. Get a Father's Day. She asked me what I want to do for Father's Day the other day. I was like, I don't really care. Probably watch the U.S. Open. Pretty boring. I might cook a steak. I don't need anything super fancy. We talked about greeting cards for Mother's Day, and I went on a tangent on that thing. So that's just completely out at this point. So, Demouy is working at the moment, which we just think is absolutely unacceptable. I can't imagine what he has to do in the business world that's more important than coming on here for 10 minutes and talking about baseball. But turns out that that is the case. He's done working. So, Casey, give him a call. See, it couldn't have been that important. 3 minutes, and he's done. I want to get Demouy's thoughts on a couple of things, but Jay Johnson right now talking about it being a heavy bullpen day for guys who did not pitch over the weekend. And I want Demui's thoughts on some of the guys, that whether or not he trusts them in a super regional situation, specifically the left-handers, as this Kentucky team wants to run and run and run. If you've got a left-hander out there, you can neutralize that just a little bit. But do you want to compromise the guys that you've got out there just because they throw left-handed? And I want to get Demui's thoughts on all of that. He's, of course, the host of the 60 Feet 6 Inches LSU Baseball Podcast. He joins us every Wednesday when he's not working. Apparently, he's not working anymore. Demui, what could have possibly been so important that you can't come talk baseball at exactly 2:30?
Something that pays the bills.
You haven't been getting our checks? We've been sending you checks every week. You hadn't gotten those?
No, I think they're stuck in the mail. I don't know. But,
well.
yeah, I was able to get off in time, so thanks for making time and kind of pushing your schedule a little bit, so I appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely. We got 4 minutes. We can handle 4 minutes. I was talking about the Rad Dad contest. So, all right, let's talk about the regional over the weekend. What was your biggest takeaway from LSU's regional win?
I think they found a way to win, kind of in different styles, right? You saw them schemes with schemes, and we don't have enough time to get into pitching decisions, but I was wrong on that. And you saw them string some hits together and just kind of grind out a little bit of a win. And in all honesty, I didn't watch any of that game because I was in Tuscaloosa for a wedding I was driving. But then I was back in town. The rain helped me out, and you saw, Game 2 was Floyd. Got derailed by the rain delay, and then LSU just finds a way to slug it out, and they come from behind and win a tight game, and then make Oregon State go through the ringer. And then you see, to my knowledge, it feels like what always happens when LSU has another team up against the wall in regionals is the bats just come alive, right?
Yeah.
And it was the lefty show, right? Cooper did enough, Ackenhausen did enough, Herring did enough, and then Headrick closes it out. But Thatcher Hurd, you got to be encouraged by him. And as we've talked, you only need 4 to 5 bullpen arms to get to Omaha. And they did it one weekend. And hopefully they can do it again this weekend. And then, a week from now, you could be talking about those guys matching up with somebody in the College World Series.
We know Kentucky likes to run. Does that put an emphasis on left-handed relievers for LSU this weekend?
I don't know so much if just the running game puts an emphasis on the lefties. They have some good lefties in their lineup with Jackson Gray, who leads off. They have the Petrie kid who hit the ball really, really well last weekend. I was doing some research last night to prepare for the preview pod. So I think the lefties are going to be a big factor just because they have good left-handed hitting. It looks like, though, they haven't been running as much, right? They didn't have a ton of stolen bases last weekend in the regional, maybe less than 4. And I looked last time they played LSU, and I think they only had 6 over a 3-game series. So I'm sure they're going to pick their spots if they need to, but they have good enough hitters to where they don't always have to run to manufacture runs. But I think the lefties will play a part just because they have good left-handed hitters.
All right, let's go to Thatcher Hurd and what you saw, because the line's not like unbelievable. He did give up some hits. He did give up some runs. And the strikeout numbers were huge. But what did you see from him specifically?
I think for me it starts with his body language and just the confidence he seems to be exuding and how aggressive he has been in the zone. And even when he gets in trouble, he just seems like he finds a way to battle back, right? If he gets in a 3-0 count, it doesn't seem like he hangs his head. He finds a way to get back to 3-1, 3-2, and then try to make a pitch there. Oregon State, I think people need to realize they had a really, really good lineup, especially at the top, and then you mix in the kid Turley, and who was on fire this past weekend, and he's a freshman. But I think with her, the biggest thing is just confidence. And even when he gets in trouble, he's figuring now a way to work out of it or limit the damage, and then he's right back in there to go again, right? The next inning, he doesn't bring any of that baggage with him. He's ready to go again. So to me, that's the biggest thing. And look, you've seen him do different roles, right? Start, relieve, and close, and he can extend. So that's a pretty good card to have in your pocket moving forward.
Do you see him starting a game this weekend, or do you think he comes out of the bullpen in a high leverage spot in games 1 or 2?
I could see both. I think he could be used in a high leverage spot initially, and if for some reason they get to a game 3, maybe he closes on Friday night, say, instead of Guidry, and then he could start and go 3 or 4 innings, in game 3 if needed. But I've kind of fallen into the train of thought that, look, whatever. I think you asked me last week, do you use him to close if you need to? And the answer is yes. You just take wins whenever you can get them. Use whatever you got to do to get that win. And if that means him closing 2 games in a row instead of Guidry for whatever reason or whatever the situation may be, I think you use him and then just figure out the rest later.
It's kind of a negative way to look at things, so tell me if I'm looking at it the wrong way. But assuming that Paul Skeens pitches on Saturday, now the weather forecast may stink, and Jay may say, "Screw it, I'm pitching him on Sunday." But assuming he pitches on Saturday, does that put pressure on LSU to win that game? I mean, do you feel like when he goes out there, we have to win?
I got some inside information, so I would say I think it does the opposite. I think it does the opposite to the lineup. I cannot reveal my source and sworn to secrecy, but I think it actually does the opposite. I think as fans, we feel pressure, right? Well, it's Skeens, we got to win this guy. He's the best pitcher in the country. But from what I've been told, it actually lets the hitters relax because they know it is Skeens. So they know what he can do. So then they're like, well, Paul's going to be Paul. So we can relax, get settled into the game, not put too much pressure on ourselves, as opposed to maybe somebody else starting game one and feel like they have to perform. They have to score X amount of runs. So I think it does the opposite.
Look, Dick showed up to the ballpark on Friday wearing Paul Skeens shirts, so I feel like he inspires a little confidence in that group. I think that is certainly fair to say. All right, as far as catcher goes this weekend, with the bunting and the running and all the things that Kentucky does, and we saw, I think, 7 balls got by Travinski in the game on Monday. Do you feel like Milazzo may need to play, or are you going to ride it out with Travinski? And because if you put Travinski at DH, you obviously lose Beloso's bat as well.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So I think you got to ride it out with Travinski, and he does have to clean up some of the stuff. I think the blocks or balls in the third, some of those it's technique, and I don't know if it's a good job or a bad job, but some balls he kind of clanks, right? It just hits off his mitt. And, if it's first and second and he misses a fastball or something cuts on him or he just mishandles a pitch, now it's second and third and a single drives in 2 runs. And that can, in this situation, that can cost you a game. But I think he just provides too much benefit at the plate right now. You got to keep him in the lineup. It'll be interesting to see if Jay goes to defensive replacement sooner in this game. And even maybe forfeits an at bat, depending on the size of the lead. Maybe not wait until the 8th or 9th as he moves, go to Napolt or Milazzo or Kling like in the 7th, and maybe those guys get an AB, and he's just going to ride it out with say a 3 or 4 run lead. I'm definitely going to be watching out for that, but I think you'll see Travinski catch every game, and then defensive replacement with Milazzo at the end.
I don't need you to go through scouting reports of everybody, and I know that you dive into numbers really deeply, but that's not really what I'm asking. Just as an overview of Kentucky's pitching staff, what do you make of them?
I have no idea. It's a free-for-all. I've been trying to do some work, and who's going to start, who's going to relieve. I'm just going to tell people now, and I'll tell them on the preview pod, you're going to see probably 4 guys a game. And the kid who threw really well this weekend, Mason, is it Malone?
Yeah, Mason Moore.
Mason Moore. He was on a roll this weekend, and he was really good. I've never been impressed with Kentucky's arms in terms of power stuff.
Right.
There's nobody like Skeens. There's nobody like Floyd. Mason Moore, he's kind of like Hurd. But the rest of those guys, they just pitch really, really well from what I remember. And I'll go back and try to watch some highlights of the previous series. It's just not a lot of lefties. And it's just going to be a bunch of arms, though. I think, Mangione is when he feels like the LSU lineup is catching on, or those guys have kind of run through their usefulness, he's just going to make a switch. And most guys probably won't go more than 3 or 4 innings, and LSU's just going to have to be ready to see 3 or 4 arms per game. And that just looks like that's their deal. That's what they do. And I just know it's a bunch of righties, and I'm going to have to try to figure out who's who, to be honest with you. Maybe you can make heads or tails of it, but I just don't know if I can.
Look, it's Zachary, it's Mason Moore, it's Darren Williams. To me, it's just a bunch of average guys. Zachary's got a nice slider. Mason Moore's got a little bit of pop to the fastball, but it's just not a dynamic pitching staff, and really hasn't been all year. Their numbers are decent, but LSU lit them up like crazy. Now, look, I'm on record. I said back 4 or 5 weeks ago that Kentucky was a bunch of frauds. So I'm on the hook for this one this weekend for sure. There's no two ways about it. But I do think you're right. We're going to see just a ton of different guys. Do you think that LSU is not as advantaged as they would be by the Alec Box home crowd because Kentucky's been playing in SEC and venues all year, including this one?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's I wanted to see Indiana just because they haven't seen Skeens, haven't seen Floyd. They don't know anything about Cruz, Tommy White. They don't have any idea how to pitch them right with their guys, and they haven't been in this environment. So not to say that I'm worried. I mean, you got to respect Kentucky. There's no doubt. They're a very good team. You know, they played good for the majority of the year. They're here for a reason. But, yeah, they're not going to be intimidated by Skeen, obviously, or anybody else. So they know they'll feel comfortable when they land and they walk into the box, you know, and that was one of the things I was dreading. But at the end, you get to the College World Series, you got to beat really good teams, and it's just another test for these guys. But I feel confident going into this weekend. You should feel confident if you're LSU and you're an LSU fan.
How do you think it goes?
Sweet. I think they take two. I think one of the games is going to be really close. Just kind of like what we saw with the game 2 in Oregon State. They may have to come from behind, make some type of play, somebody come up with a big hit, a 2-out walk, get hit, something, right? Just some type of Alec Bach magic. But I think one of the games is going to be very close. And I think Skeen, these guys hit him a little bit, although they started hitting him when it was 14-1.
Yep.
LSU blitzed them out the gate. But I think I'm really interested to see how he's pitching them. He's going to pitch them, you know, what his approach is. But I think they take two. And next week, hopefully, we're talking about Omaha this time.
That would be a really good thing. Tell everybody where they can find your stuff. I know everybody's looking for all the kinds of super regional content this week.
Yeah, I'll be dropping a preview podcast. It'll be out tomorrow morning. 60 feet, 6 inches YouTube page. Podcast is on all major audio platforms. I have a Twitter account as well. So, yeah, just check me out. Hopefully you like it. And, Hunt, thanks for giving me the platform, buddy. I really appreciate it.
We'll talk next week. Thanks to Mooey.
Sounds good, buddy.
He is Chris Mooey, former Tiger left-hander, and always with us on Wednesdays at 2:30. We got one thing left to do. That's play some Take It or Leave It. That's next.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready to what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Coming up on Thursday's OTB, hear from LSU head baseball coach Jay Johnson. Plus, the latest from LSU football camp, who stood out, big deal or no big deal, and a brand new edition of Munchies. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Reminder, Friday, Hunt Palmer Show and After Further Review, so 1 to 6. We will be out at the Rouses on Burbank and Lee, broadcasting live. Very much looking forward to that, kind of getting ready for the Super Regional. So if you're looking to do some grocery shopping and want to hang out a little bit, Rouses, Burbank and Lee, 1 to 6. I will be there. And then Matt will follow me immediately afterwards. So looking forward to getting out to Rouse's on Friday. Appreciate them for doing that for us. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, in his press conference today, Rory McIlroy said, "I still hate Liv," quote unquote. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I'm right there with him, obviously. I said my piece on it yesterday. I listened to 4 podcasts last night about the entire thing, and nobody fully knows what the agreement is, what the arrangement is, and what the fallout will be. It just feels like the Saudis got their way the way they envisioned it. They created a ripple here with Liv. It was not sustainable. It was not working. It was not going to do anything, but they had the ability to play bully ball with the PGA Tour and drain them full of legal funds, and the PGA Tour finally threw their arms up and said, forget it. We're just not going to fight this battle anymore. Come on in. And it doesn't mean that Liv is going to continue. It probably won't. But it does mean that those that took the big stacks of cash are going to be probably let right back in. Now, there may be some sort of penalty here or there. But the guys who are disadvantaged the most are the players who stood up for the PGA Tour and didn't go, and now they don't have the cash, and everybody else is just walking back in. It feels like, from the viewership perspective, which is my perspective, that you're going to get the best players in the world playing against each other again, which is a positive, and I will certainly fully admit that. I just don't like that some of the guys who made some of those decisions are being rewarded so handsomely for doing what they did. I just don't love it. That's, but biggest thing, which I've maintained the entire time, is that the best players in the world are going to play together again, and that's what I wanted. So that's a good thing. But Rory and some of these guys, as Rory said today, kind of feels like a sacrificial lamb, and it felt like he kind of was. He kind of get paraded up to these podiums time and time again to talk about why the PGA Tour shouldn't work with those. You shouldn't work with those people and shouldn't do those things. And then all of a sudden, the tour, right without telling anybody, is like, oh yeah, that's what we'll do. So interesting.
Superstar Lionel Messi has agreed to terms with Inter Miami of the MLS. Big get for American soccer. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. If there are people in America that are big soccer fans and have never seen Messi play and want to see him at the downturn of his career play a little soccer, that's a great thing. You won't catch me at an Inter Miami game, nor watching one. But that's fine. There are a lot of people that will. And if you want to check out Lionel Messi down on South Beach, more power to you. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think I saw on Twitter that tickets for an Inter Miami game were like $93, and now they're like $460.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's pretty big. All right, last one here. The Jaguars unveiled plans for the Stadium of the Future today. The Jags will be in Jacksonville for the next 15 years. Take it or leave it.
They build that stadium, I'll take it. Sitting here right now, I'll leave it because it just feels like that the NFL wants so badly for the Jaguars to go to London. But Shad Khan's got a ton of money, and if he wants to build a stadium that looks like that, he can do it. He's got the funds to make that work. So I hope that the Jaguars stay in Jacksonville, because even though I have no allegiance to the Jaguars, my heart breaks for people whose teams leave. I'm just really disappointed for the people of Oakland that they've lost the Raiders and now are losing the A's. That sucks. And I just can't imagine if my team, if they took LSU out from 2.5 miles from my house. Obviously, it's not the same situation. It can't be done, but it's the only thing that I can lean on like that. The Cubs are never been here, so I don't have to deal with it from that perspective. But it just bums me out. And if there are diehard Jaguar fans that want the team to be there and enjoy spending their Sundays out watching the Jags, I hope they continue to get that opportunity for a long time, because I don't think a lot of people in London really care at all. So, again, follow the money. The money says London. Probably where they'll end up, but we shall see. That's it for Take It or Leave It. Open the show today talking about LSU pitching coach possibilities. And we had Darren Headrick, who was fantastic today, breaking down the Kentucky Wildcats. He is the play-by-play voice of Kentucky baseball. That was back at 1:15. It was a What If Wednesday. Did a little bit of that. Had some Seinfeld in the mix there, and then I talked NBA Finals to close out hour number 1. Hour number 2, blue chip ratio in college football. Who are the teams that have the players, who doesn't, and what does that mean for the future of college football? And some SEC super regional betting props. Keith Law's Big Board, Chris Demui. It's all on demand wherever you find your audio. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. See you tomorrow on Palmer Show.